get on here. Okie dokies. Okay, so hello and welcome to Purple Church of Jesus, our second time. Total yay, and thanks y'all for showing up for this and being a part of this with me. I feel it's really important, and I feel like there's a huge need out there, which has already been evidenced to me just by the experiences since the last time. So I appreciate that you're showing up for this, and you know, we're just going to keep on doing this last Thursday of every month. So
really here for Elmo, but you too. So.
Grover,
sorry, that's right, the blue one, Grover.
Yay, he helps me out. Thanks, Grove. So just like last time we had this, if you don't mind, just starting out with just a few moments of your own reflection, however you do, or just listening to the birds singing, or however you want to do that, just to help gather thoughts and get centered. Yeah, I'll tell you something that has worked for me really well over the years. So years and years ago, I used to have some real severe panic attacks. Like, just I was just like certain that the sky was falling, and it would be really terrifying. And a friend of mine, real insightful friend of mine, who you know, I would call when I would be in one of these moments. They could happen anytime. They could be happening just like when I'm sitting in a room with people. Nothing would have to be happening that would cause this panic to begin. It would just be like, it's almost like something I would fall into. But a friend of mine, he helped me through that, learn how to approach when those things happened. Just said, be in the present moment, be right here, right now. You know, just to literally describe, okay, I'm sitting on this couch. The climate feels real comfortable. I heard a bird just singing as this bird went by. I heard a dog. You know, feels like it rained recently. And just really in the present moment of now, like I'm wearing a purple shirt. I'm here with my friends, you know, and it's the evening time. And not, if my mind would start to go off into where it was hyperventilating and panicking, bringing myself back to right here, right now. Because usually, if it started falling into its little abyss, I was like way out there in the future in something I had no control over, or I was way in the past with something that I was never going to be able to change. And if I could just get myself here, physically, mentally, everything, just here, then that would help those panics to subside. And so it's something that I still do. I don't have panic attacks like I used to, and when I do, it's nothing that is as severe as it used to be. It used to be really scary. So I like that, starting these with a moment like that. That's what I'm doing when I'm having those. I'm like, okay, don't panic. Just be here. Thought I'd share that with you. So I'm going to do this thing that to start out that is probably going to be pretty much as clearly an extremely untalented attempt at music like last time, but it's from my heart, and I'm going to try it. So try not to make it too painful, and I'll stop apologizing for myself because it's from my heart. So I'm just going to give it a try. Find the right note first. All right. Got a little poem for you. It's called I Was Certain. I was certain that this was just the new face of everyone who would always hate more than enough of me before knowing even the first truth about me. Certain of the fact that I would always be that stain that wouldn't go away, chasing away what I didn't want to stay, then begging, please stay, all the way gone. I was certain that what felt good would hurt me, either quickly or slowly, because nothing could be trusted again, especially when they say, of this you can be certain. I was certain that this was the time that this is the time I was really going to remain depressed as fuck for the rest of my life, because I was certain that that one thing that was legit killing me was also, at the same time, the only thing left that I could rely on to keep me alive. Motherfucking certain that I was done with God and with everyone, and that God was all the way done with me too. Certain from both ends of worthlessness, wanting nothing, right up to the day that I found out that I was certainly wrong. We talked about what I identified as our three imperatives at our first gathering during our first not a sermon, called that because who likes to be preached at? Not me. I talked about the see a need, fill a need, purpose that I'd seen, propelling me into attempting this Purple Church of Jesus. Thanks for wearing purple today. Within that purpose, I had identified three imperatives, and in order to stay on track with this purpose for the creation of Purple Church of Jesus, I feel that these three imperatives bear repeating at the beginning of our gathering. So quickly, here's a recap of the three. 1, establishing a sanctuary for our spiritual natures to absolutely flourish exactly as we are, right out loud, without any of the judgment, the shaming, or the rejection by family, friends, and religions that so many of us have experienced. 2, standing up for our buddy, Jesus, who I sometimes like to call my Halo J, or my BFFFE, best friend for fucking ever, meaning that when people throw abuse at LGBTQs and saying that it's in the name of Jesus, we stand up to that bullying and protect his name, letting them know that their hatred and mistreatment of LGBTQ humans is not representative of their love for Jesus or from Jesus, because Jesus has nothing to do with that. His name and the lessons and example that he showed to us should not be muddied up and character assassinated with their hatred. In other words, they can go ahead and just own their own assholeism rather than blaming it on our friend Jesus, because that ain't him. And 3, I feel like I need to sit on the ground. So there. All good? All right.
Absolutely.
3, addressing spiritual abuse clearly and directly, how to recognize it when it's directed towards us individually and as a community, understanding that it is as real a form of abuse as physical abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse, finding a way to call it out, whether it comes from a family member, a friend, or a coworker, or the politics of punching down on people who are and who have always been marginalized in our society. I spoke in my Not a Sermon last month about these imperatives, and today, with us celebrating Christianity's Holy Week this past week, I figured that this lines up pretty cleanly with our second imperative, standing up for our, or at least for my, BFFFE, best friend for fucking ever, Jesus Christ, Halo J. And as thin-skinned and short-memoried as we human beings can sometimes be, sadly, it isn't until after we've seen that "what have you done for me lately" part of things, to quote Janet, Miss Jackson, even from Jesus, before we're really able to put ourselves out there and call bullshit on people who are using his name to spread their hatred, and we begin standing up for him. Our second imperative with Purple Church of Jesus, standing up for who Jesus really is, takes a whole lot of courage for so many of us, because there will always be people all around us who feel it's their job to decide for us who he is, and for us how we should feel about that. And as you probably already know about me, I say fuck that bullshit. Don't you try standing between me and my BFFFE Jesus, whether you call yourself a believer or not. That shit just ain't gonna be up to you, not ever. So since the last time we got together, I've taken heat from both sides of the cross, both from publicly pious churchgoers attempting to force onto me and onto our community what they believe Christianity is and isn't. Spoiler alert, Jesus apparently still hates us according to some, and to think otherwise is still considered the visceral opposite of Christianity for some unthought through reason, as well as hatred or dismissal from people within our own community, telling me that there's no difference between being a gay Christian and being an actual Nazi, leaving me to believe, after seeing both sides of this conversation around Jesus during Holy Week, that this Purple Church of Jesus that we have created and brought forward is absolutely exactly what is needed. Taking fire from both sides has proven to me that A, spiritual abuse is still very lively and unashamed about kicking us in the spiritual face in the name of Jesus. And B, those who have been spiritually attacked and have suffered judgment at the hands of our culture's version of Christianity do truly have a lovingly blacksmith PTSD axe to grind. And who could blame them for feeling all of that? As we, or as I, stand up and say, I love Jesus, that he's my BFFFE, and that I'm not going to allow people to continue to spit hatred in his name, sadly, for the people in our community, that should probably include a trigger warning. One of my favorite scriptures, one that's probably one of the most requoted ones, John chapter 8, verses 31 and 32. Then Jesus said to those Jews which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then ye are my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So that freedom that is spoken of there is included with the action of showing that you're a disciple by continuing in the word of Jesus. So if somebody's saying to me that they're Christian and they're throwing fucking rocks at me, I'm gonna say, well, that's kind of bullshit. And the truth shall set you and me both free. So I'm gonna call it out. Say, guess what? That's bullshit. And the truth shall make you free. In the Bible, there are several stories about miracles. The phrase manna from heaven is straight out of the Old Testament. There's the miracle of turning water into wine, miracle of a few loaves and fishes feeding over 5,000 people, Jesus walking on water, healing the sick, making the blind to see, raising his friend Lazarus from the dead. During our celebrations of Holy Week, we're reminded of the resurrection and how, because of him, though we were dead, yet we shall live. And right here, this is the moment where people from both sides of the conversation around Jesus and LGBTQ plus humans would likely want to begin throwing rocks at me. Each for their own vested reasons, and that's okay. I've thrown my share of hate rocks too. I do get it. Poem that I began this not a sermon with, called I Was Certain, is about finding out that truth is not always what I had been absolutely certain was true. Whether or not my brain had it all neon lit, flashing in all caps, certain that I was hated. Certain that there was no hope. Certain that I was undeserving of love from anyone, including from myself. Certain that you would agree with me about all of that. Certain that who I am, as I am, is someone who God hates, while he continues to provide safe harbor for all of those who hate in the same gut-punching way. All caps certain of all of this. This is pretty close to the time of just being a little kid learning how to pray before knowing anything about anything being called gay. Certain from everything that I'd seen and been taught at that young age that there was no place for me, and most certainly, no matter what, unless I hid who I was, there would be no place for me in a church. The shortest version in the New Testament that I know of anyway is only 2 words long. Jesus wept. Importantly, this is found immediately before he raised his friend Lazarus from the dead. Earlier, speaking about what have you done for me lately, I know firsthand the absolute abuse that we have experienced and continue to experience daily, right out in broad open daylight, of what our culture accepts as what Christianity thinks, feels, and acts out abusively about with our LGBTQ plus community. I know this lived experience from deep within me. And when I read Jesus wept right before he raised Lazarus from the dead, it tells me first to go ahead and cry. To be unashamed when crying about what I find to be intensely sad, but also immediately with and after that, to not let go of believing in miracles that can really happen. Let me find this other poem. Sorry, I'll have another moment to breathe for a second. I'll find this. This one called Nothing is Wasted. Sorry. Guess what? It's not going to show up. Here we go, I think. No. I'll read it next time. Called Nothing is Wasted. Or I'll find it at the end. So sorry about that. When the New Testament talks about miracles, specifically the miracle of helping the blind to see, I think not only in literal terms of reading about someone whose vision was severely impaired, who saw it restored to 20/20, that could be exactly what happened. But I also know that a lot of times Jesus taught by using parables and allegories, telling a story of one thing and relating it in a way to illustrate the lesson he was teaching. Finding and reclaiming his lost sheep is a perfect example of this. So when I read about the miracle of Jesus restoring someone's vision, in addition to this possibly being something to be taken literally, I also see an allegory, The story of someone who could or would not see something of deep importance staring them straight in the face, something of which they were certain was something that Jesus said or did helped them to see what they had been previously blind to seeing at all. One of the sayings I've picked up and loved during life is this quote: "Problem with know-it-alls is that's all they know. The blind, unteachable." And I do have a poem I want to read about that, called "The Blind Shall See." Trusting another's vision to include you when you can't see on your own is next to impossible. That blind trust only comes once. There are no other options left open. The fruit, looking like poison, held in front of you to consider if there is or isn't anything else, anything left, anything you can trust. Then, that first taste of nectar, cooling your cracked throat, and maybe. When I see the cross, particularly during this time that we were having Holy Week, and I see depictions of my BFFFE Jesus nailed to that cross with his arms opened wide, whether or not you believe in the story of Jesus or still can't see his story of transcendence through the deeply opaque filters of your own lived spiritual abuses, which is motherfucking valid as fuck, I think to myself, here is a humble man who walked this earth barefoot, spending his whole life the same way that I see him now, in service of others with his arms wide open, literally giving everything of himself, saying, "Take all of me. I am all the way here for you. My heart is true and is absolutely connected to yours." My BFFFE. When we talk about resurrection, about Jesus raising the dead, to me, I also hear each of those terrible things about me, of which I was certain were true, and seeing them all fall away one by one with love. When asking, "What have you done for me lately?" It is that resurrection of that part of my spirit that I was certain was dead that speaks to me of who Jesus is, speaks to me about the miracle of helping a spiritually blind man to see again, speaks to me about resurrection of life happening again after experiencing the death of wanting to be alive, speaks to me, whether speaking literally or through allegory, about the now lived experience of truth, love, and hope, all being able to fully coexist in the same room without having to throw rocks at each other. I've got a poem about Jesus and me hanging out, because yeah, we're buddies and we hang out. This one's called "I Love You, Jesus, the Only Begotten One. You're my favorite person of color. Thank you for still being here with me." And then Jesus said, "You're welcome. I love you too. And since I know that you have been liking haikus lately, I've got one for you. Better be ready, because it's a good one, just like you and me. Ready for this? The rock rolls away. Jesus, glowing with laughter, yelling, 'April Fools!' And I say, 'Are you serious with this, Jesus?' He says, 'Died for your sins because of loving you. Serious? Is that serious enough for you?' 'Fuck yeah,' I said. Then we hugged, knuckle bumped, and walked away, both of us still laughing. Jesus says, 'I am the way, the truth, and the light. He who believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live.' Praying that someday each of us has an opportunity to roll back that giant rock and find that what we were certain was all the way dead within us can somehow live again. I say these things to you and to my BFFFE, Halo J, with our second imperative in mind, being unafraid to stand up for Jesus, whatever pronouns he chooses, and whatever face-offs I have with haters from both sides. I am still here, experiencing in, believing in, and speaking out about lived miracles in celebration of Holy Week, and in the resurrected name of Jesus Christ, amen. I got a song I play for you. And then maybe we can after that have another like few minutes of just thinking about resurrection, and not automatically that being like a literal physical raising from the dead, but something within us that we were certain was dead. Feeling that again, and having that be something that is so valid to each of us, that you want to tell me that the source of that hates my guts, that you can go ahead and fuck off. So I'm gonna play the song for you. It's not about Jesus, but it's a spiritual nature that I really like it. And then I am gonna see if I can find that other poem. I think because I'm not on the network or something, I guess. I have to connect to your network in order to play this.
It's
Let me see if I can.
what? What platform are you playing it on? We connect to
Oh
phone.
wait, I think I'll be able to. I got it. Okay, here we go. I think. Somebody got a iTunes or something I can pull up on their phone?
Yeah.
Is my phone on my
And Spotify. Is it on Spotify?
probably.
The song? Oh, and then I can connect it to the speaker.
And then
Oh, yeah.
And then
I'll
it's
go with
like,
Bluetooth, yeah.
this is like I think it's called Wonder Moon.
Cool.
Find it there.
Yeah, and then we'll push connects. It's connected. Do you hit the... Oh, no, that's already over here. Click and hold the flashing one again. It just disappeared. There we go. There we
you go. All right.
accept my praise, my blame, my joy, my sorrow. I realize we are, in truth, the truth we seek. God, perfect this very moment. God, Shiva, my love supreme, imminent love, transcendent reality. My love, Shiva, my supreme reality. So desire no more what you already possess. You are already free. Your divine nature is to love. My soul identical to God. On a journey to return to my Creator. To a peace far beyond passion. State of bliss. God, my soul is imminent love. Transcendent reality. Oh, how sweet love through the sun is your my supreme reality. You are my mind of the mind, my eye of eye. The light of my life. You are my mind of the mind, my eye of eye. Through you, my soul, I realize. Free me from this life. God, Shiva. Imminent love, transcendent reality. My love, Shiva, hear my prayer. My supreme reality. You are truth, truth you see. Transcendent reality. Truth you see. I am alone, just a vision. My supreme reality. The truth you see. I no longer desire. I no longer desire. Free me from this world. Free me from my body. Transcendent reality. Free me from this world. My supreme reality. My supreme my supreme reality.
Yeah, cool. That's Michelle Indicao Cello. If you ever heard of her or haven't ever heard of her, she's awesome. She's wonderful. And that is album one of her first, if not her first. No, it's her second. I think it's her second album, Peace Beyond Passion. It's wonderful. I found that other poem. I'll read that real quick. And then if you want to have a few minutes to collect your thoughts or your spirit or wherever you want to spend it. And then just like last time, I really 100% believe, well, two things. There's no such thing as time. That's a part of this, so that's official. And also, just have open mic, because it's not about me. It's not about my experience and what I bring to this. That's a part of things, but it's not about that. It's about all of us and who we are and what we bring to this experience of life, and finding our spiritual natures, finding how that speaks to us, and finding that in a healthy way that you know you're safe here. This is a safe house for spiritually abused people, like you would think of a safe house for a woman who's been battered by her domestic partner, having to find a place that nobody can find her and beat her up again. This is that place where we are safe for you to experience your spiritual nature, how you do, without worrying about all of that. You know how I feel about it. So here's time for open mic after if you want. If you don't, you don't have to. but have a few moments and then just open it up. Also, I know that Holy Week and Easter is like, it's almost like the holiday was lifted from paganism and the beginning of spring and solstice and all of these things happening that are regenerating life at the same time. It's about rebirth. It's about the earth sustaining us, and it's about us flourishing within this place that we find ourselves physically, spiritually, all of those things together. So the lens I see things through that speak to my spirit the most clearly, probably just because what I grew up in, is Christianity. But that is not at all to negate anyone else's access to their spirit and what that means to them and how they find that, how they feel that, how that strengthens them, what direction they get from that. And Easter being, like I said, something that is almost like Christians said, okay, well, we're going to have all our holidays around what the pagan holidays are because everybody's already celebrating those and we want to get the attention from those and go over here and say, hey, look at us, we're the right ones. So that part is fucked up to me. So when I speak about Christianity and Holy Week, please know that that is only my slice of understanding of things, and in no way is any attempt to say this is the important one. No. So open mic to me doesn't mean, okay, who's Jesus to you? It means, what's your spirituality? This is your safe place. This is your safe house. How do you feel about where you are with things of a spiritual nature? And then, so here's this last poem, and then I'll shut up. It's called 101 Billion Years. For 101 billion years, nothing was wasted. When I became multicolored, suddenly breathing here, now, and once I am in my season of leaving, I will decompose into nothing being wasted again. Bringing all of who I have to this. When I see, as I said in my Nada sermon, when I see statues of Jesus up on the cross and his arms out like that, that's what I think of. I think he gave everything. It's like, have it all. Nothing is wasted. So that's what I wanted to end it on. So if we can just have a moment or two, and if you want to, this is all everybody's.
Yeah, either way.
Okay.
And then And we like I record these so I can make them available to people who are not able to be here, but who are interested in being here. So we can either leave that running while we do open mic, so people can participate as they feel, or if that is like a barrier to you feeling like you can participate, we can shut it off, and that's just for who's here. It's not up to me. So however you feel.
As long as I know it's recording, then it's not a problem.
Okay.
Just being aware.
Anybody got some open mic? No pressure.
I don't know if I'm in the mental space for it today.
What?
I don't know that I'm in the mental space for that
That's
today.
totally understand, respect.
That's fine.
100%.
I had fun sharing with my people. I love seeing their faces when I say the people were celebrating Easter like for hundreds or thousands of years before Jesus came.
I'd
Like,
say longer than
yeah,
that.
and then they're like, wait, what?
And I personally celebrate Astara, because I'm pagan.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing, rebirth, fertility. But it's just the earth.
Ustra, Ostra, Ishtar are all goddesses of fertility. And I mean, it's simply that people, especially in people like extreme climates, you know, have these hellacious winters, you know, where everything's like frozen over, and then all of a sudden flowers burst through the snow, and a short while later flowers are dripping off of tree branches and fruit is busting out of bushes, and to them life was this incredible miracle, and they knew that it would always come back. And it's like it never really died, it was just, you know, down there, it was just waiting. And so obviously life is this incredible gift of grace from a god, or in their case a goddess, which made more sense for a goddess to give birth, you know, to life every spring. And life didn't die. Life with a capital L never died. And so Jesus comes along and says, that's right, but there's more. And that's life doesn't die in you. You know, your body may move, go somewhere else, you know, but that when you're part of life, capital L, you know, it's forever. It's like the preservation of matter, the law of preservation of matter, but it's spiritual law, it's the same law, but it's spiritual stuff never goes away, it's never wasted, never lost. So when Mary is looking for the body of Jesus, because that's all she feels like she has to hang on to, is at least his dead body. You know, something's dead, but it's all she feels like she has left. And through her tears, saying, where have you moved him? And Jesus himself saying, Mary, calling her name. And then her realizing, you know, that it's him. And that realization that, yes, life does not die. That voice, that's the voice of life. And to each one of us, when we reach that point where we're trying to hold on to something that's dead, because at least it's something we know that's really basically dead, and beginning to give up on that, and life says no. Life calls our name and says, we're not done. This is not the end. In fact, it's just the beginning. If we just kind of look up through our tears and open our ears to hear that voice calling our name, we're not done. We're just getting started.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because you know, that there is like matter and energy moves from place to place, you know, and people when I was working on Easter, and people would be like, okay, so do you really believe that Jesus, was raised from the dead, like his physical body was raised from the dead, and didn't die? And I told that person, none of us die. Basically, I was like, matter and energy moves from place to place and is going to find its purpose, just like the poem I ended with, and one day, when it's my time of leaving, I'll decompose, and matter and energy will continue in another way. And I'd never, after even thinking of that bunches of times over the many years, I'm just like, yeah, we're really just moving matter and energy around. Just is housed in this physical body for me right now, but never thinking about it in the spiritual sense of spirit being the same immutable force that can travel from place to place. I mean, obviously I do, because I have my mind thinks in spiritual terms and is fed by that and finds strength from that. And people who I have been very close to who have died, I still talk to them. I still feel what would be their shape, not physical shape, but how I feel when it rains. For my friend Drew, I'm like, okay, there's Drew saying hi. And I don't think it's like Drew is standing behind me with his hand on my shoulder going, hey, but it's a way for me to access the spirit of Drew that until you just said what you said, I'd never really thought of in direct terms of, yeah, that is a part of us that is just as true as matter and energy moving from place to place. It's just, that's science.
Yeah. I felt for you at the beginning of your sermon. On Sunday, I began mine talking about like one year, kind of thinking about the difference Easter made to me, and I was doing a funeral for a friend, and I flashed back as I'm driving through the cemetery to get ready for the committal service to the one time that I'd seen my mom's first son's tombstone with a little lamb on it. He was killed in infancy by a drunk driver, and so I never met him. I was born later, and then realizing one year that one day I will meet him, and it'll be more than just a sad memory, and maybe I could even talk to him now. Maybe I don't have to wait until then to make some connection with my brother that I never met. And of course, at that point, I lost it, and I had to push through it hit me much harder than I thought it would, because I preached on that sermon before, and I'm like, I practiced it and everything, I'm like, I can do this, and no, I couldn't, because it was just so present in that moment. But I pushed on and got through, and but yeah, it becomes much more real somehow at Easter, remembering that no life doesn't die, and in fact it pops out and calls our name. It says, hey, I'm here, I'm gone, you can't get rid of me that easily. And it's messy too, because if you think about people you thought you were rid of forever, and you're not. and we're gonna be surprised one day when we're living forever with people that we had trouble living just in the present with. Well, that's all part of the deal, part of the learning, part of the growing, part of being spiritual. When we have no choice but to look at each other and see each other as spiritual, and we can't rationalize it away, then we're really going to grow and deal with it. And really understand who we fully are, you know, and who other people fully are. Yeah, it's gonna be something.
Well, you think about the evolution of the world, how many billions of years to get to where we are in evolution in the physical world, and think about that in spiritual sense of things. And yeah, so it's not going to be, okay, we need to be at the destination already with anything, physical, spiritual, any of that. We're all somewhere in between what we've learned from previous generations and what we're helping to learn for our generation to bring forward to the next generation.
Yeah.
So that we're our little segment of evolution, spiritual, physical, however, looking at it from the spiritual sense of things, it's like I have a responsibility to help, even if I don't see, oh, okay, well, we achieved what I would consider equality and the end of hatred towards LGBTQs in the name of Jesus. Hooray, we got there, let's have a parade. That may never happen in my life. In fact, it likely won't. You know, it's just so automatic for almost 100% of churches to just have LGBTQ people in this category, and they're just gonna sit there and be, if they will even allow themselves to, it's like we're the lepers, you know, if they'll even allow us to be near them, instead of in their hearts, they'd rather we were banished to an island where all our limbs could just fall off one by one.
Yeah.
You know, that is what I feel comes from churches who say they love Jesus. And that's why I want to do the Purple Church of Jesus and call that bullshit out. Make a safe place, call out the bullshit and say, hey, you know what? You're saying you're doing that because of Jesus? No, you're just an asshole. Because Jesus is love. You know, and then helping people to connect to their spiritual selves and thrive in a healthy way, a healthy, loving way. But I don't think that there's going to be like that parade day for Purple Church of Jesus to say, hey, look, guess what? We solved the world. Everybody finally figured out they don't have to hate LGBTQs automatically, and you know, they figured out a healthier place for us to be in their brain. But I feel the responsibility to move that much forward in our spiritual evolution, building on the generations of people who would have never been able to imagine where I am right now in my life with being a openly gay man married to a transgender woman. You know, it's funny, you talk about having and I just keep on rambling, so I mean, just really somebody take the mic. But you talk about you know, seeing things in a different way regarding people who have passed away and having that connection to them continue, and it's not just like, okay, you're flat dead and well, that was entertaining and I guess I'll do what I can with the rest of my life, and now you're gone and you're ashes to ashes, which is matter and energy is doing stuff. But the spirit part of things, you know, I think of when my wife and I got married, you know, we met and we were just immediately just fast in love. We were just like, we wanted to be with each other all the time. And we were running around having so much fun. It would just, we'd be laughing and laughing and laughing. My face would hurt so just from laughing so much. And I was not like a gleeful skip through the park kind of guy. I was like a fuck life guy, you know, that, you know, it's just a series of me continuing through disappointments and whatever, you know, I'll die someday and that'll be it. But, you know, all of a sudden there was this just huge sunshine happening. And I just couldn't, I was laughing so hard all the time, my stomach hurt. I was like, please, I just got to get my face to not be smiling so much for just a minute, just so I can rest for a minute. Because it's hurting, I can't stop smiling, I can't stop laughing, and we were having so much fun. And you know, when we first started dating, my wife was identified as and was a physiological male who, you know, I'm a gay guy, met up with Soledad, who is identifying and is physically male. And I'm like, wow, finally, after all this struggle of 40 years, having enough people to recognize marriage equality between people of the same gender as being valid that already, there's the parade.
Yeah.
Like that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And that happened, and now I've met somebody like this who I'm 1,000,000% in love with, and that has just really just shined the big, bright, beautiful light on my life of joy that I never saw coming. I want to be around this person for the rest of forever, you know, and finding that and us being together and her feeling like that towards me and us getting married. And that was the happiest day of my life, the day we got married. They still is the happiest day of my life. And we're 10 years together now. And last summer we celebrated 10 years married, you know, and it was about a year into our marriage that she said, I'll never forget it. I was sitting on the couch. She came up to me and she said, you know what? I have something I have to talk to you about. I go, okay. She said, I'm a transgender woman. And I go, okay. Wow. And I knew that the next few things that went through my head and came out of my mouth were going to be really important. So I had to sit with that for a minute and go, how do I feel about that? You know, how does that affect us? And she is my fucking hero, rock star. She is so solid, you know, and knowing how much we love each other and knowing how strong she is within her identity to say, this is who I am and this is who I'm going to be, and I really hope that we can stay together. I really love our marriage, but if that's not going to work for you, I respect that and I'll move forward because this is who I am and I'll go in this direction being true to myself. Oh, that was just fantastic. I still do. But thinking that through, I mean, it took me all of 3 seconds to go, well, fuck yeah, I want to stay married with you. I love you. I love the fuck out of you. You're like with me forever. Wherever that takes us and whatever shape of love that is, our love is true. And I want to stay married with you. And within a few months, I proposed to her again with her chosen name and said, let's show this to the God in the universe how, you know, if I had had the same information now that I had at the beginning, I would have made exactly the same decision to marry you. I love you and I want to be with you forever. You know, and bringing that back to the conversation you were having about, you know, somebody who had died, and having that connection continue. You know, we don't know, I don't anyway, what form it takes for me to be connected to my friend Drew, Kevin, my mom, anybody who I've been so close to that I've thought, you know, I have got to be the one that dies before they do, because I don't know what I'll do. I don't know how I'll do it. If they go before me, that's just, I don't know what I'm going to do, because that's not going to be something I'm going to be ready for, ever. You know, and each of them going before me, having a way to just know that this is true love. I don't know where things go from here, but I know that it's not about, for Soledad, it's not about body parts. I don't love her because of body parts. I don't love her because of you know, how long her hair is or isn't. I don't love her for, you know, if her voice is in the right register of a cis woman or not. I love her. I love her. You know, and figuring out the rest after we grow together and move forward together, I'm thinking of in the same light of someone who has died, who I love this person. Drew, my mom, Kevin, my buddy Chris, a couple years ago. None of these people that could die before me who did. And me having that sit on the couch moment going, what's next? Obviously, I'm gonna love them forever. I don't know where things go from here, other than that love is never stopping. Same with Jesus. You can throw rocks at me and say Jesus hates my guts. Guess what that changes for me? Nothing. That stuff's true.
And you loved Soledad, and did you care what gender Soledad was?
No.
And so,
Right.
if God is love, why in the world does God care what gender somebody is? I'm like, that's just like,
I'll tell you something.
it's like,
I'll tell you something funny. One of my professors at school said that is probably real sacrilegious, and it is. I'll say it anyway. he was trying to nail somebody down on gender with God, saying, okay, so God's not a woman? No, God's a man. You're sure God's a man, not a woman? God's a man. Okay, so, and then God's like, as big as the universe, right? God's everywhere. So he just must be like, as big as the universe. Yes, God's everywhere, as big as the universe. And so then the professor's like, so God must have a really big...
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, if you break it down, and it has to be like these concrete little blocks that you put together. God's a man, God's this, or whatever.
Yeah.
Life and death are these things, and they have to fit here. Gender are these things, and they have to fit here. Love is this, and it has to fit here. Guess how much of, if I'm putting everything in this little space, guess what I just missed? All of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm passionate about finding a healthy spirituality that speaks to you, that helps you to see all of this.
Yeah.
You know, because the people that don't want us to feel that just want it to be in here. And guess what? It ain't. Let me go ahead and get a hammer to this right now, because if you're going to just look at that, guess what you didn't get to see? I don't know the answers of what's living in these trees. I don't know what kind of bird was singing as it flew by, but I know I really liked that song. It was pretty. I don't know what kind of dog was barking while we were having our quiet time, but I love dogs, and that was, I don't know what kind of dog that was, but it was fun to hear a dog. And if I had just said, nope, I'm going to be right here, I'm going to miss everything. So, yeah, this has got to be a healthy place. Feel it. Feel your spirit, and however that is, whether it's Christian, pagan, agnostic, atheist. You could have a whole conversation about atheism, you know, and I hope it's a conversation together. I find that I don't know if it's because I used to be a missionary or what, or if it's just because I'm really passionate about it, but I keep pulling it back to what I feel about stuff, and I really want to smash that and hear everybody else, because I'm here to learn. I'm not that person that the only thing about know-it-alls is that's all they know. I'm here to learn, and I learned that from what each of you bring of your spirit, whatever that is. So that's why we're here.
To be a learned.
What?
So you want to be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all.
Yeah.
That's right. Be a learn-it-all, because it's so invigorating. It's so fucking cool. You learn new stuff.
I feel like it'd be boring if you knew everything.
Well, and to be self-limiting like that, like the poem I started out with was, I was certain of this, certain of this, certain of this, and they were all just like terrible corners that I gotten myself stuck into, and just thought that was it forever. Certain of those things, you know, to have an opportunity to have something open up to you that helps you see, no, there's more to it than that, really. I mean, we get so locked into, no, it's this, it's in here. You know, just having unlikely sources of people around us who we never would have imagined had truth that we needed to hear, just by living their lives, bring something forward that just completely opens that up for us when we were certain, no, it's this. You go, holy crap. Forest for the trees, you know? So, yeah, last Thursday of every month, let's keep having these, and it doesn't have to be me that brings forth not a sermon, anybody. This is not about me, it's about all of us. And so you've got something that you feel passionate about, or something that you feel is important for our part of this spiritual evolution to bring forward to help the future generations gain from what we've learned, like we're gaining from what came to us, you know, and really having that be an open, this is a mad scientist lab for spirituality. Like, pour those potions together, let's make stuff blow up, you know? For real. Let's find it, let's do our part for the next generation to say, hey, you know, those folks in that purple church, they were onto something, and I find something of peace and of strength in what they were trying to do, and help one more person not want to die because of the bullshit that people want to keep you in. So, said it enough times. Who else has open mic stuff? Is that a you're about to say something sound, or was that a?
I don't know. I don't think it's fully formulated enough to say anything.
So go keep that. Keep that. What is it when the cells divide and they make something together? Yeah, nourish it. Nourish the
Yeah.
fuck out of it.
I want to thank y'all for sharing your home with us last time, and I want to thank you for sharing your home with us this time. Appreciate that. That was a lightning bug.
Yay! Really?
The first one, yeah.
First one.
Yeah,
So cool.
I think so.
I believe it because they come right around Earth Day every year.